In 1948, Edwin Land stood on a stage and didn't just demonstrate a new product. He basically performed a breathtaking magic trick. He slipped a piece of film into this really bulky camera, took a photograph, and then just waited.
Exactly 60 seconds later, he pulled out a completely finished print. The audience literally gasped. I mean, you have to remember, at the time, photography was completely shackled to darkrooms. It meant foul-smelling chemicals and waiting days to see a single shot. Land just made it instant.
Today we're tracking this entire crazy story, from the magic of instant photography, Edwin Land's intuitive vision, and the razor and blade business model. We'll also cover Polavision and the early warning signs, the innovator's dilemma, and finally, an ironic physical revival.
Starting right off with the magic of instant photography, it sparked an absolute cultural explosion. The camera Land debuted that day, the Model 95, went on sale later that same year, and it sold out immediately. Now, it cost the equivalent of $1,100 today, but people still lined up around the block, because for the very first time in human history, you could actually see your photograph before you even left the room.
Throughout the 1950s and 60s, that iconic whiteboarded Polaroid became a total staple of American culture. It was being shaken impatiently in living rooms, pinned to refrigerators, and utilized by legendary artists. Andy Warhol made the Polaroid portrait his absolute signature style, and they even brought on Ansel as a company consultant to help perfect the technology.
But driving all of this cultural shift was Edwin Land's intuitive vision. Behind the entire operation was Land himself, a Harvard dropout and a visionary physicist who was just obsessed with the manipulation of light and optics. He eventually held an astounding 535 patents. To put that into perspective, that's second only to Thomas Edison.
Land had a profound influence on the next generation of tech pioneers too. Steve Jobs literally called him a national treasure, and he actually modeled a lot of Apple's philosophy directly on Polaroid's approach to design. See, Land firmly believed technology should be so intuitive that it just completely disappears. You didn't really operate a Polaroid, you just pressed a button, and the technology did the rest.
Fast forward to 1970, and Polaroid had exploded to 20,000 employees, with its stock rising 100-fold. Then, in 1972, Land unveils the SX70. It was this beautiful brushed chrome and leather folding camera. But beneath that really elegant exterior was immense complexity. We're talking over 5,000 individual parts, making it one of the most intricate consumer products ever manufactured at the time.
So how exactly do you sustain the massive engineering costs behind a machine with 5,000 parts? Well, you rely on the razor and blade business model.
Here's how Polaroid's brilliant economic engine actually worked. The complex cameras were sold relatively cheaply just to get them into people's hands. The true profit engine? That was the film. For every 10-shot film cartridge, Polaroid charged a massive premium. Consumers were totally hooked on the magic of instant photos, and Polaroid banked recurring revenue every single time a shutter clicked.
But then the late 1970s roll around, bringing us to Polavision and the early warning signs. Land attempted his most ambitious leap yet, an instant movie system. It was designed to create 3-minute silent films that miraculously developed right there inside the camera.
As a technological marvel, it was incredible. As a commercial product, an absolute disaster. It launched at the exact same time as VHS tape recorders. So consumers looked at this 3-minute silent movie system, compared it to VHS, which could record hours of audio and video, and the choice was obvious. Polavision hemorrhaged $68 million, and in 1980, the visionary Edwin Land resigned as CEO.
Even after losing Land, the company stayed highly profitable through the 80s. But then we hit the true tragedy of the 1990s, the innovator's dilemma. The crazy thing is, Polaroid actually saw the digital wave coming early. Their own engineers successfully built fully working digital camera prototypes. Yet, management explicitly killed the initiatives.
They fell victim to the classic innovator's dilemma. This is that brutal scenario where a successful company fails to adopt a new technology precisely because adopting it threatens to cannibalize their existing, highly profitable business model.
For Polaroid, their fear was tied to one massive number: a 65% profit margin on physical film. Executives viewed digital photography, which, requires absolutely zero film, as a terrifying, commodity-driven race to the bottom. They chose to protect their cartridge revenue, essentially handing the digital future over to their competitors.
By the late 90s, the digital takeover was irreversible. Consumers were suddenly asking a very logical question:
Why wait 60 seconds and pay dollars per physical print when digital screens offered immediate, completely free, and infinitely unlimited photos?
Which brings us to an incredibly ironic physical revival. The very company that invented the entire concept of instant gratification was ultimately obliterated by instant digital technology.
The corporate collapse was painful. Polaroid filed for bankruptcy in 2001 and then again in 2008. Edwin Land's legendary research laboratory, the site of 4 decades of breakthrough science, was simply demolished. The once great pioneer was reduced to a brand name, licensed out and just slapped onto random electronics and gadgets made by entirely different companies. But then, as we entered the 2010s, a strange and totally unexpected twist occurred. The physical object returned. A digital-weary public started missing the tactile reality of holding actual photos. Fujifilm's Instax cameras became massive, runaway hits, and Polaroid-branded physical cameras suddenly surged back into relevance. That whiteboarded square photo transitioned from being a technological necessity into a deliberate, nostalgic aesthetic choice.
The instant photograph survived after all, but the company that invented it didn't.